In the heart of Dearborn, Michigan, a city alive with the hum of everyday struggles and quiet hopes, lived Amir Hassan, a 22-year-old young man carrying burdens that no one his age should bear. Life had dealt him a harsh hand. His father had died tragically 3 years ago in a workplace accident, leaving Amir the sole guardian and provider for his small family. His mother, Layla, was battling late-stage cancer, her once vibrant spirit now dimmed by illness and pain. His younger sister, Nadia, only 17, was a bright student with dreams of becoming a doctor, dreams that felt increasingly out of reach as their world began to crumble. Amir's days were a relentless cycle of exhaustion and sacrifice. By night, he stocked shelves and manned the register at a local halal grocery store. By day, he drove for Uber, weaving through city streets to earn every penny he could. Between these jobs, he squeezed in community college classes online, trying to build a future he barely dared to imagine. But the weight of unpaid medical bills, mounting school fees, and debt collectors' relentless calls pressed down on him like a storm cloud he couldn't outrun. His face grew pale, his eyes hollowed from sleepless nights, and his hands trembled as he counted the last few dollars clutched in his pocket. One chilly, overcast afternoon, Amir sought a moment of simple comfort. He entered a small, humble Pakistani-owned tea shop, known throughout the neighborhood for its steaming cups of chai, just $1 each. As he reached into his pocket, fingers fumbling to gather enough coins, a sudden presence made him look up. There, seated quietly at a corner table, was a woman unlike anyone Amir had ever seen. She wore a flowing black abaya that swept the floor with grace, and a diamond-studded hijab pin sparkled subtly under the shop's dim lights. Her posture was poised and commanding, yet there was something searching, something deeply human in her eyes as they met his. "Are you Amir Hassan?" Her voice was calm, measured, almost like a secret shared between strangers. Amir blinked, surprised and wary. "Yes, I am." She nodded slowly, as if confirming something she already knew. "I know what you're going through." His heart skipped a beat. "I'm sorry, do I know you?" "My name is Fatima Al-Saeed," she said, her tone steady yet soft. "I'm a businesswoman. I lost my husband many years ago. I've seen a lot in this world, and I see the pain in your eyes, the struggle, the silent burden you carry. You're worried about your mother, your sister, your future. But what if I told you I could change everything?" Amir's brow furrowed. "I don't understand." She smiled gently, almost like offering a lifeline. "Marry me?" Amir laughed nervously, disbelief mingling with confusion. Fatima was at least 70. Her skin bore the marks of time, yet it glowed with a vitality that defied age. Her presence was magnetic, commanding attention without demanding it. "I'm serious," she continued, her voice steady and sure. "If you marry me, I will pay off every debt you owe. I will make sure your mother gets the best medical care possible. Your sister will have every opportunity to complete her education and become the doctor she dreams to be. You will be free, Amir. Free from endless night shifts, from the crushing weight of worry. In return, I only ask that you accept my conditions." Amir stared at her, numb and stunned. This is crazy. Why would you do this? Why me?" Fatima's eyes softened. "Because a long time ago, I lost everything that mattered to me. I have built a life since then, but I have no one to share it with. I don't expect love from you. I don't want to cage you. You will have your own space, your own life. Just marry me, and I promise everything will change." Her words echoed in Amir's mind long after he left the tea shop. The weight of his reality, the sharp pain of watching his mother suffer without medicine, the shame of telling Nadia that she might have to give up on school pressed down harder than ever. Days blurred into nights until one evening, beneath the fading amber sky of Dearborn, Amir found himself standing before Fatima's grand mansion. The air was cool, heavy with the scent of blooming jasmine. His heart pounded not just with fear, but with a strange flicker of hope. He took a deep breath, stepping forward. "I accept," he said, his voice steady. sealing a pact that would change their lives forever. Within a week, the whirlwind had settled into a strange, unsettling calm. The paperwork was signed, sealed, and Amir found himself legally bound in marriage to Fatima al-Sayed, the wealthiest, most enigmatic woman in the region. Their nikah had been quiet, almost ritualistic, held in the presence of a handful of community elders and witnesses. No fanfare, no celebration, just a solemn promise exchanged beneath the fading light of the mosque's arches. The mansion where Fatima lived was something out of a dream. Walking through the grand entrance, Amir felt like he had stepped into a royal fairy tale, glittering chandeliers casting prismatic light over rich Persian rugs, golden railings twisting up staircases like vines of pure luxury, and walls lined with priceless art that seemed to watch him with silent judgment. Every detail whispered power, wealth, and untouchable privilege. Yet, beneath this glittering surface, Amir's heart grew heavy with a strange emptiness. There was a stillness inside this opulent palace that pressed against his chest, a sharp quiet that felt less like peace and more like a warning. Servants moved silently through the halls, their footsteps barely audible, as if afraid to disturb the fragile silence. Everyone in the mansion treated Fatima with a reverence bordering on fear. Her longtime aides bowed with careful respect, distant relatives whispered as if sharing secrets, and even the air seemed to bend around her presence. Amir, now part of this world, was given his own wing, furnished with luxuries he had only dreamed of: tailored clothes, endless access to fine meals, and whatever he desired. But no amount of riches could bridge the invisible wall that separated him from Fatima. Each evening, they dined together in the grand dining room. She asked about his day, smiled warmly with a kindness that never quite reached her eyes, never pushed for more than polite conversation. Fatima was graceful, poised, endlessly polite but distant. It was as if she existed in a different realm, always a few steps ahead or behind, never truly present with him. The warmth in her smile was a mask, beautiful but brittle. What gnawed at Amir most was the massive locked door on the mansion's second floor. It was impossible to ignore a dark monolith among gilded walls, its heavy brass handle worn smooth by the hands of the guard posted around the clock. No one would tell Amir what lay beyond it. Whenever he asked, the answer was a cold, unyielding silence or a curt dismissal. The door whispered to him in moments of solitude, filling his mind with unease. Every time he passed by, his fingers itched to touch the cold metal, to pry open the secret it guarded. One evening, unable to resist, he stopped before it, his hand resting on the smooth brass handle. The chill of the metal seeped through his skin, sending a shiver down his spine. Almost immediately, a guard materialized from the shadows. "Sir, this area is restricted," the man said, his voice low but firm. "Why?" Amir pressed, eyes searching the guard's face for any hint of an answer. The guard said nothing, merely glancing nervously toward the door before retreating. That night, the silence was shattered. As the faint call to far echoed from a distant mosque, Amir sat awake in his room when he heard it. Voices behind the locked door. A conversation. And then, unmistakably, Fatima's voice.
Soft, urgent.
Different from the serene woman he knew. His heart pounded. He crept closer to the door, straining to hear. Questions flooded his mind, relentless and sharp. Who is Fatima al-Sayed beyond the grand facade? What secrets did that locked room hold? And why had fate brought him here? Into this marriage, into this mansion, into this mystery? At that moment, Amir understood that while marrying Fatima had saved his family from ruin, it had also opened a door, one that might lead to darkness he was never meant to face. That night, sleep was a stranger to Amir. Though he lay wrapped in the soft embrace of his luxurious bed, its satin sheets cool beneath him. The golden-trimmed walls glowing faintly under the moonlight filtering through silken curtains, his mind roiled like a stormy sea. The vast mansion that was meant to be a sanctuary felt more like a gilded cage, each corner holding whispers and shadows he could no longer ignore. Earlier that evening, Amir had caught snippets of muffled voices coming from beyond the forbidden door, the one door in the house no one ever dared to open without Fatima's express permission. The sound had stirred something deep inside him, a mix of curiosity, fear, and a yearning for truth he hadn't felt before. His family's fortune had turned in miraculous ways these past weeks. His mother's health, once fragile and fading, now blossomed with newfound vigor. Fatima, with the steely resolve that only a mother possessed, had summoned a renowned Muslim oncologist from Chicago, whose treatments seemed nothing short of a divine blessing. Meanwhile, Amir's sister, Nadia, no longer faced the anxiety of unpaid tuition. Her laptop, fresh and sleek, gleamed on the new study desk, a gift that symbolizes hope and opportunity. Gratitude flowed freely in the household, with every member whispering prayers of thanks to Allah for this sudden grace. Yet, despite the outward peace and prosperity, Amir felt hollow inside. Fatima was unchanged in her demeanor, gentle, reserved, composed as ever. But something was different. Each evening, she dined quietly with him, offering kind words and asking after his own family, yet she retreated early to her chambers without fail. What struck Amir most was her prayer ritual. Unlike the rest of the household, who gathered in the grand prayer room, Fatima prayed alone, always in that distant wing closest to the locked door. Whenever Amir's curiosity overcame him and he asked about the door, the servants were curt, their voices clipped with caution. "That is the private wing," one would say. "No one enters without her permission." But that only fueled Amir's growing unease. What could be so secret, so guarded behind that door, that even the servants feared to speak of it? One evening, as the sun dipped low and twilight painted the sky with strokes of amber and violet, Amir found himself alone in the courtyard. He sat beneath a sprawling olive tree, flipping through the pages of an old Quran Fatima had given him, not for study, but for solace. His thoughts drifted, tangled with doubt and hope. It was then that Layla approached a young woman of 19, soft-spoken yet unmistakably warm. She was Fatima's personal attendant and the only servant who spoke to Amir with ease. "Is everything all right, sir?" Layla asked gently, her eyes filled with quiet concern. Amir hesitated, then looked up. "Layla, please tell me honestly what's behind that locked door upstairs?" Her face stiffened immediately, her eyes dropping in deference. I'm sorry, sir. I don't know," she whispered, voice trembling slightly. Amir studied her for a moment, sensing the truth hidden beneath her words. "You do know, don't you?" Layla's breath caught, and with a furtive glance around, she leaned closer. "I can see it in your eyes."
Please don't ask.
"I could lose everything if I do." Respecting her fear, Amir didn't press her further. But his obsession only deepened. 2 nights later, under the cloak of darkness, when the mansion was silent and still, Amir found Layla in the kitchen. The faint aroma of cardamom hung in the air as they spoke in hushed tones, away from prying ears. "Layla," he said, his voice low but steady, "if Fatima permits, will you tell me when she's alone and available to talk?" After a long moment of hesitation, Layla nodded. "If she says yes, I will come to you." The wait was agonizing. Then, one midnight, as the clock's ticking echoed through the halls, Layla appeared quietly at Amir's door. "She's waiting for you in her chamber," Layla whispered. "She wants to see you." Amir's heart thundered in his chest. He splashed cold water on his face, smoothed his dark blue thobe, and stepped into the dimly lit hallway. Portraits of long-dead ancestors with stern, hollow eyes seemed to watch his every move as he approached Fatima's room. He knocked lightly. "Come in, Amir," came her calm, measured voice. The room was unlike any Amir had ever seen. Fragrant roses in tall, crystal vases perfumed the air with a delicate sweetness. Light filtered through arched windows draped with silken fabrics that shimmered softly. And there, seated with an elegance that defied time, was Fatima, radiant, composed, her eyes sparkling as if holding a secret she was finally ready to share. "I didn't think you'd come," she said with a gentle smile. I had to, Amir replied, his voice barely above a whisper. There's too much I don't understand. She beckoned him to sit across from her. You're not here because of your mother or your sister, she began softly. You're here because of that door. Amir's pulse quickened. Yes, he confessed. It haunts me. Fatima rose slowly, moving toward a nearby cabinet. She pulled out an old, faded photograph and handed it to him. In the sepia-toned image stood a man older, dressed in the faded fashions of the 1980s, standing beside a younger Fatima. The man looked strikingly like Amir, sharing the same sharp features and deep eyes. That's your father, Fatima said quietly. Amir's breath caught, disbelief and shock mingling in his chest.
What?
His name was Khalid Hassan, she explained, voice trembling with memories. We met long before he married your mother. Amir stared at her, the weight of her words sinking in. You knew him? Fatima nodded, eyes glistening. He was the first man I ever loved. After my husband died, Khalid showed kindness to me. But I misunderstood it wasn't love. When I finally confessed my feelings and asked him to marry me, he laughed. Told me it was ridiculous, that I was nothing more than a rich distraction. She turned her face away, her voice tight with pain. That rejection shattered me. The shame, the heartbreak, I buried it deep inside until I saw you, Amir. You look exactly like him. Amir rose, his body trembling with disbelief. So this marriage, was it revenge? No, she replied, slowly turning back to face him. It began as revenge, yes, but it didn't stay that way. He watched her closely, searching her eyes for truth. I wanted you to suffer as I had, to feel trapped,
Controlled, used.
But you, she paused, tears brimming. You showed me kindness. You spoke gently, never raised your voice, respected me even when I didn't deserve it. Her tears spilled silently. I didn't expect to fall in love with you. Amir stepped back, the room spinning. This is madness. Fatima crossed the room with a slow grace, placing her hand over her heart. The heart is not logical, Amir. Neither is pain. A heavy silence hung between them, sacred and fragile. Finally, Amir looked away. So, what's behind that door? He asked. Fatima exhaled deeply. The truth. And you're ready now. She reached into a drawer and pulled out an old brass key, worn but shining in the lamplight. Tomorrow night, after everyone sleeps, come alone. Bring no questions, no accusations, only your heart. That night, after the mansion had sunk into an unsettling silence, Amir found himself unable to close his eyes. The revelation about his father, about the man he had idolized, resented, and longed to understand, twisted inside him like a storm. Everything he had believed about Fatima, about her calm demeanor, her grandeur, her generous offer, suddenly felt fragile, like a carefully constructed mask hiding a profound, painful truth. Yet, beneath the surface of her composure, there was something hauntingly real in her eyes, a rawness, a sorrow that struck a chord in Amir's heart. He held the key in his palm, not just a key to a locked door, but a symbol heavy with weight far beyond its metal form. It throbbed in his hand, as if alive, holding promise, danger, and the power to unlock wounds that might burn as fiercely as they healed. The mansion around him was quiet now. Everyone else had retreated to their rooms. Shadows stretched long across the polished floors, and the air was thick with the scent of old wood and fading memories. Amir's breath caught as he walked toward the second-floor hallway, where the forbidden door awaited. The corridor was dimly lit by a flickering wall sconce. The faint ticking of an ancient clock echoed, steady and relentless, like the heartbeat of the house itself. Amir stopped before the door, his hand trembling slightly as he raised the key and slid it into the lock.
Click.
The sound was final, sharp like the snapping of a seal. The brass lock yielded, and the door creaked open with a mournful groan, as if reluctant to reveal what it concealed. Inside, the room was a capsule of time. Golden light spilled softly from a single chandelier overhead, casting long shadows on walls lined with faded wallpaper and dust motes drifting lazily in the still air. The scent of rose water mingled with the mustiness of old paper, wrapping the room in a bittersweet nostalgia. At the far end stood a majestic wooden cabinet, ornate and ancient, its carved surfaces worn smooth by time. A solitary armchair sat nearby, draped with a faded prayer shawl that whispered of solitude and prayers long said. Amir's eyes fell on a sturdy table in the center of the room. On it rested a thick, leather-bound folder, its cover cracked with age. Hands slightly shaking, Amir opened it. Inside were photographs, dozens of them, each a frozen fragment of a lifelong past. Most showed Fatima in her youth, radiant and vibrant, attending elegant galas, traveling to distant places, laughing with friends. But then Amir's gaze landed on images of his father, Khalid Hassan. Some showed Fatima and Khalid together, smiling, touching, sharing moments that seemed filled with hope and tenderness. His throat tightened. Beneath the photos lay a stack of letters, yellowed, carefully folded, and covered in neat handwriting. Dated decades ago, they were words frozen in time. He picked one up and read the fragile script aloud in his mind. Dear Khalid, I waited for you at the train station again. Why didn't you come? You said you loved me. Was it all a lie? I gave up everything for you. I can't bear this silence. The letter slipped from his fingers as a wave of anguish surged through him. His breath was shallow, heart pounding with the weight of long-buried pain. Suddenly, a soft voice broke the silence. I used to write to him every week, Fatima said, stepping quietly into the room. She wore a flowing robe that swayed like mist, her face calm yet fragile, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears. Amir spun toward her, startled. He never wrote back, she whispered, voice cracking slightly. Not once. The room seemed to contract around him. His emotions wrestled: anger, sorrow, confusion. Why did you keep this room locked? He demanded, his voice trembling with a mix of frustration and sorrow. Fatima's gaze fell, her fingers tightening on the edge of the cabinet. Because it was the part of me that never healed, she confessed softly. The part one was ashamed of. I didn't want anyone to see how broken I was. Amir stepped closer, searching her eyes. Then why marry me? Why trap me in this legacy of silence and pain? A tear escaped down her cheek as she approached him, voice barely above a whisper. At first, it was punishment. I wanted his son to know what it meant to be powerless, to live with no choice, no hope. But I misjudged you, Amir. You aren't him. You're stronger. You are better. She paused, struggling to hold back her emotions, then continued. You made me believe in love again. Real love is not control, not pain, but something fragile and honest. Amir recoiled, conflicted. This isn't love, Fatima. This feels like manipulation.
Guilt.
Obsession. No, she shook her head gently. It became love when I realized I didn't want to control you. I just wanted you to truly see me for who I am beneath all this. His eyes flickered back to the cabinet. Among the scattered papers, a legal document caught his attention, a will, dated just a month ago. It stated simply that upon Fatima's death, everything, the mansion, the fortune, the legacy would belong to Amir Hassan. He looked up at her, incredulous. You're giving me everything? She nodded slowly, a weary smile touching her lips.
Yes.
Not because I have to, but because I trust you. Because you gave me something I thought I lost forever. Hope. Tears blurred Amir's vision, but he didn't move. He didn't know if what he felt was sorrow or guilt, anger or something else entirely, a turbulent mix of all. I don't know what to do with any of this, he whispered. Fatima smiled faintly, reaching out as if to bridge the gap between them. Just stay for tonight. That's all I ask. Amir said nothing. He just stood there, young, heavy-hearted, caught between the shadows of the past and the uncertain light of the future. They spent the night talking, not as husband and wife, not as victim and perpetrator, but as two souls, wounded and searching, daring to be vulnerable. Their voices, low and raw, filled the silence of the ancient room, unraveling decades of pain and secrets. By dawn, something fragile had settled between them, an uneasy peace, born not of forgetting, but of understanding. But fate was not done with them. Weeks later, Fatima's health declined swiftly. Doctors spoke in quiet tones of heart failure, of an age that had finally caught up with her. Amir stayed by her side, reading verses from the Quran, watching over her with a tenderness that transcended titles. He was no longer just her husband. In those moments, he was more like a son carrying the weight of her pain and her love. In her final breath, she murmured, "Thank you for making me feel young again, even if just for a while." Her face softened into a peaceful smile, and then she was gone. At her janazah, the world praised Fatima for her generosity, her strength, her empire. But no one knew the full story, no one but Amir. As the last prayers faded, he whispered into the breeze, "I forgive you, Fatima. Forgive me, too." This was not the end, far from it. From the quiet shadows of the grand mansion, where sorrow and secrets once clung like heavy curtains, someone else had been watching all along. Layla. Only 19, she had quietly served Fatima with unwavering loyalty, moving through the household like a gentle breeze. She had been there during Amir's most bewildering days, tending to him without a word of complaint, a silent guardian in the background. Now, as the mansion's weight began to lift, Layla stepped slowly into the light. Her eyes followed Amir not with desire, not with cunning or calculation, but with something far more tender. A soft, unwavering devotion, the kind that doesn't demand or manipulate, but simply offers a quiet kind of love. Like a flower blooming hesitantly at the edge of a long, cold winter, a new story began to take root. Months slipped by. The mansion, once haunted by the echoing footsteps of Fatima al-Said, was awakening to a new life. Gone were the whispers of regret, the cold silence behind heavy doors, and the invisible weight of old secrets pressed deep into the velvet wallpaper. In their place, sunlight poured through tall windows, gentle music floated through the halls, and laughter bloomed like wildflowers after a harsh frost. Amir had changed, but not in the way the world expected. Yes, he inherited Fatima's vast fortune, the sprawling estate, multiple properties, and a web of businesses. But wealth no longer defined him. He wore it like a shield, protecting his mother, building a future for his sister Nadia, and transforming the mansion into a home. A sanctuary, not a shrine to pain. And in this fresh chapter, Layla began to emerge from the periphery, stepping softly but steadily into the center of his life. She had always been there, present but quiet, gentle but unseen. An orphan raised within the walls of the household, Layla had been Fatima's closest confidant, carrying the weight of many untold stories in her heart. But it wasn't until after Fatima's passing that Amir truly saw her. It started in small, unspoken moments. She brought him tea on chilly mornings, asking gently if he had slept well. She remembered how he liked his books arranged not alphabetically, but by topic. She reminded him to eat when long days stole his appetite. She listened without judgment, never pushing or prying. One afternoon, Amir found her kneeling in the old rose garden, tenderly nursing a withering jasmine vine back to life. "You really care about this place, don't you?" he asked quietly. Layla looked up, a soft smile lighting her face. "It's the only home I've ever known." Amir paused, absorbing the weight behind her words. "You never seemed afraid of Fatima, even when everyone else bowed around her." "She gave me shelter," Layla replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "But you're the one who brought peace here." Those words settled in Amir's heart like a gentle promise. From that day, he began seeking her out not just for help, but for conversation, for companionship. He asked about her dreams, about the life she imagined beyond the mansion walls. She confessed her wish to become a teacher, to inspire children the way she had been inspired. But her life had been paused, caught in the endless service of others. Amir made a silent vow. He would help her find her path freely, without conditions or expectations. And as the months unfurled and spring returned to the crisp Michigan air, something deeper began to grow between them. One cool evening, After the Isha prayer at the local mosque, Amir and Layla walked side by side beneath the soft glow of the moonlight. "I've been thinking," Amir began, his voice steady but vulnerable. "You've been with me through everything. You never asked for anything in return." Layla's eyes lowered, cheeks flushing softly. "I never wanted anything but to see you happy." He stopped walking and turned toward her, looking into her eyes with a calm certainty. "Would it make you happy if I asked you to be a part of my life? Not because I pity you or to fill a void, but because when I look at you, I feel calm. I feel home." Tears welled in Layla's eyes, her voice barely a whisper.
Yes.
They were married in a quiet nikah ceremony at the mosque. No lavish celebration, no golden invitations. Just friends and family gathered in prayer. With a heartfelt dua for the soul of Fatima al-Sayed, whose legacy lingered softly in every corner. Amir once believed himself cursed, trapped in a cruel pact born of revenge and sorrow. But what he hadn't understood was this. Sometimes, Allah leads us down the most unexpected paths not to punish us, but to guide us home. Now, Amir was a husband, a protector, and soon a father.
Yes.
Layla was pregnant. Their life wasn't perfect. There were challenges, struggles, and moments of doubt. But it was real. The mansion, once a tomb of grief, now echoed with lullabies and nursery rhymes. His mother sat peacefully in the garden every evening, basking in the quiet light of healing. Nadia, now a medical student in her 3rd year, came home each weekend, filling the house with laughter and hope. And in the East Wing, where Fatima had once guarded her pain behind locked doors, Amir created something new. A library, the Al-Sayed Room of Forgiveness. Within its walls, Fatima's old books, journals, and even her unsent letters found a home. Above the entrance, a single phrase was etched into stone. Love does not always arrive the way we expect. But when it does, it makes everything before it worth surviving. And so, the story of a young man who once married an older woman, bound by a strange and painful deal, transformed into a tale of destiny, healing, and enduring love. A legacy of forgiveness not just inherited, but chosen. Thank you for listening. If this story touched your heart, please like, share,
And subscribe.
and as always, stay kind, stay curious, and stay grateful. Alahai.